Ooh.
Okay. Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for coming. My name is Stephanie Karachi. I'm the event coordinator here at Big Night Fitness, and it's my honor to introduce today's panel. We've got a killer lineup for you this evening. First up is Conor Murphy, celebrity personal trainer, Big Night Fitness managing partner, and my boss. So if I'm doing a good job, please let him know, because who doesn't love a race? We've also got Mike Finn, Berklee professor and tour manager, who's worked with DIY bands to the biggest tour in country music history. And last but most certainly not least, we have Dillon Francis, international DJ and producer who really needs no introduction.
Oh, thanks.
Dillon, you released I'm My Only Friend, and I gotta tell you that song really resonates with me. I had to drag my only friend to come to this event to work the door. Michaela, I hate to break it to you, girl, but this isn't the album release party. And of course, a very special thank you to our moderator, Morgan Millardo, managing director of Berklee Popular Music Institute. Woo! And Morgan Lutzi for helping put together this spectacular event. As a BPMI alum, it's a thrill to be able to partner in this capacity. So without further ado, please put your hands together as we welcome, they're already sitting to the stage, our panel.
All right.
Thanks, Stephanie. Thanks, everyone, for being here. So I just want to start it off with the basics. I'm curious how the three of you know each other. I know you've all worked together at some point, but can you talk a little bit about that? How did you meet, and then how have you continued to stay in touch?
Yeah, we can do that. Do you want me to go?
Yeah, take it
Mike,
away.
you looked scared.
So,
I hate this.
Mike, how long did we work for? 5 years?
Yeah, 5.5 almost.
Okay, 5.5 years. So I was starting to tour a lot, and I was kind of going through a lot of tour managers because finding you're on the road constantly with the same person, you need to make sure your personalities mesh. And so I went through a couple people, wasn't working. Mike and I met, I think, in Portland.
Sacramento.
Close enough.
Yeah.
And we saw each other, and it was a meet cute, you know, love at first sight, and we worked for 5 years together until he went to Thomas Rhett and then to Morgan Wallen. So I feel like a pretty good jumping board. But no, we stayed friends. Mike and I have the same personality. We love the same things, and through us working together and being so close together, Conor was one of Mike's really good friends, or best friends, I don't know. But we got introduced to Conor, and Conor was doing CrossFit at the time, still does, somewhat. But he was working for Reebok CrossFit, and we would go in and work out every time we were in Boston. And then one time we were like, hey, do you want to come on tour with us, a bus tour, and let's put a bunch of weights in the back and we'll work out every day. And yeah, and that's kind of the story of our friendship that blossomed into a great group text message chat. Yeah.
Romance.
It's a romance.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, real friendships require group texting,
Yeah.
for sure. Okay, Dillon, can you talk a little bit about what a healthy lifestyle looks like for you while you're on tour?
Oh, yeah. A lot of sleep. I need to sleep a lot.
Like how many hours? What are we talking?
I'm trying to get 8
Yeah.
plus.
Solid.
I'm way different than one of my good friends, Diplo. He like needs 2 hours of sleep, if that. So if you're touring, just make sure you listen to your body. If you can do it, do it. If you can't, make sure you say no. Yeah, and then a healthy touring lifestyle is really just trying to work out as much as possible. Especially, I'm 36 now, so bone density is a big thing for me. Got to make sure I'm working on that. BMIs, okay, wasn't just a weird thing in middle school that they were checking.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, it's a real thing.
Cool.
So.
So Conor, from your perspective, what are the key factors that contribute to sustaining a healthy lifestyle while constantly being on the road?
My job on tour with these guys is really just support in the realm of anything like health and wellness. So, normally how it works is, we'll wake up on the bus, and one of the first things that's offloaded from the production trucks is the equipment. So we have fitness equipment that usually Rogue Fitness or someone sends out on the road, and we get that all set up. And that doesn't mean we train first thing in the morning. There's times when there's early load in, late load in, but I kind of get the workout, whatever the workout of the day is, set up, and then figure out a time when it works best for Dillon. And then outside of that, what's fun is that people see Dillon training on tour, and if they're either on Dillon's camp or if there's a co-headliner, people always want to get on the workout train. So I'm kind of there on the floor, and we work out kind of around Dillon's schedule. But then a big piece is, on top of what Dillon was talking about, sleep, is the nutrition part of it. And it's so easy, especially on tour, if you're not prepared for it, when you finish playing a show where if it's weekends, it could be from anywhere from midnight till 3 or 4 a.m. when you finish the show. It's really easy to be hungry, and the only thing that's available is shitty food or candy or anything of that sort. So me being able to implement the diet that we kind of all follow just makes it easier for them, because I'm always there and I'll always do whatever Dillon is doing. That's obviously the exception of playing a show. But we stay up at the same points of time. We'll go to bed at the same points of time, and that way it's like, hey, we're not going to eat. I'm just as hungry as you are. Yes, that pizza smells good that's in the lounge that everyone else is going to be eating.
So many pizzas. So many pizzas.
Post shows, there's just a lot of pizza, and it smells so good. And when you're in a bus that has 8 other people that are also eating pizza, it's really, really difficult. But there'll be like the 3 of us, we're like the prudes of it. We'll all just be like laying in bed, just
smelling it,
messaging our girlfriends how much we want to eat the pizza. But just being able to have that regimented schedule of it being like, hey, this is what you're going to do, this is what you're not going to do on that. So just supporting that and then creating that for them.
Cool. Michael.
Hello.
Mike.
Yes.
Mike and I have known each other for 1 million years, and so sometimes I get like Mom,
I had
and
hair.
I'm like Michael. Mike, what role do you play in ensuring the overall well-being of the artist and team while on tour as the tour manager?
That's a big question. I guess, being essentially the representative for not just the artist, but also for the tour, you have to just take in account everyone's safety first. Safety trumps all for anybody that's taken my class. But, a show has so many different elements to it, but then backstage also has its own kind of ecosystem and element that we have to take into consideration. So joining up with Conor, especially on the nutrition side, almost having him write the script for me to kind of communicate that out to the masses, and then having other team members with us, just ensure that that's going to be provided for everybody. And then on top of it all, you have to worry about a mass gathering, so security, safety, health. It's just kind of my job to kind of get the staples from the appropriate expertises of the tour, and then I can communicate what we need to each city and state and venue and promoter.
Great, thanks. So Dillon, can you talk a little bit about how maintaining a healthy lifestyle, including fitness and nutrition, has impacted your creativity and overall performance as a musician?
Yeah. I mean, I think at the end of the day, working out is really just like very much for my mental health. It sucks to work out. It does. Like, I don't want to do it, but I know that after I do it, I always feel better. Like, I haven't been drinking for 2 years now, and the last tour that we did where we brought Conor on, we were all it was just a dry tour, and then I think that's kind of where actually I continue just not drinking, because of the fact that if I was drinking, hangovers last so long for me now, and it's like 3 days.
Yeah.
It affects so much of my work, so that's really been a big thing for me as I keep getting older, to just kind of like eliminate things that are messing with my productivity.
So I'm going to skip ahead in my list just while we're on the subject. So this industry obviously has associations with partying and late nights and all that. How do you prioritize your well-being, and what advice would you give to folks in the room who, I know we have a lot of students here who want to be TMs or artists or, whatever, production, whatever it is they want to go out on the road. I mean, what advice do you have for them to kind of shift that mindset and make decisions that help you feel better?
I mean, if you're not drinking or if you're not participating in all that, you're always going to be a step ahead of everyone else, because that person's going to wake up either, you know, hungover and not do as much as you. That was like when I was 18, I forgot who told me that, but that always stuck in my mind, where I always tried to really pinpoint and pick where I was going to drink or participate in a party or whatever I wanted to do, you know? So I think it's really picking and choosing wisely, so that you're not, you know, cutting yourself in half or cutting your feet off or whatever. Whatever the term is there, you know?
Sure, yeah, that's great. Conor, how do you tailor workout routines to accommodate the unique challenges for while you're on the road, while you're touring? And can you share some practical tips for staying fit and active while on the road, considering the limitations of being in so many different locations all the time?
Yeah, I think the important thing is the communication with whoever that you're training. I mean, there's times when I set up the workout equipment in the venue and I communicate with Dillon. He's like, I didn't sleep very well last night. I'm not really feeling good, and I have, like, he wants to work on his set before his show, and it's like, all right, well, I'm not going to completely smoke him today, but maybe there's something we go a little bit lighter. We need to make sure we're still moving. But then also there's times when if Dillon feels shitty when he wakes up, and it's like, oh, cool, we'll tailor this a little bit, and then we kind of ease him into some fitness, and once he starts feeling better, then you can kind of lay the hammer down. But the important piece is really that communication, knowing who you're training, what they're capable of, not just being like, hey, every day we're going to go like really, really hard. And that is different for every person on the tour, whether it's someone who just hops in for the first time. If there's a videographer who's on the road and they're like, hey, I want to hop in this workout. It's not just being, you know, like any asshole trainer can give someone a workout so hard that they can't walk for the next week. And a lot of times we correlate that with a good workout. People are like, oh man, that trainer is so good, like I couldn't walk for a week. You're like, well, how often did you work out during that next week? You're like, not at all. Like, well, that's not very effective. So I think a good thing to kind of mantra to have is train to train another day. Put them through a workout, make it difficult for them, but not so much that they can't, one, perform. The biggest thing is that they can perform that night, but then the second thing is that they can train and continue this throughout the entire tour. It's not just one workout. No one in the history of history has ever gotten fit from one workout. And I think sometimes even if we just hop on a treadmill, and you know, there were times when we would go to a hotel, I'm like, all right, we're gonna go incline 10, 30 minutes, we're going to walk at a certain pace. We get a little bit of a sweat on, we stretch.
I was just about to bring that up. That was one of the worst workouts ever.
It sounded really easy at first.
He put you,
like,
yeah, you're
sure.
like, you're going to walk for 10 minutes at like a pace that's a half run. You can't really run because then you're just like trotting very bizarrely, and you can't really walk. So it's just this, after 5 minutes, your calves start burning so badly.
On an incline?
On an incline,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
And you're doing, I think we did 20 minutes actually. Okay.
I think it was 30.
Because I remember, it was 30?
I think so.
Asshole.
That's tough.
But it was a good workout. It was a good workout.
Mike, how do you balance the demands of your career while maintaining personal relationships and connections, both on the road and at home? And then how do these relationships play a role in overall wellness?
Communication, I think, is going to be the root of all relationships, both professional and personal. So you get used to a lot of FaceTimes, a lot of phone calls, and then also when you do get home, really setting boundaries for yourself. The unique thing about all of our jobs is there isn't a time you just clock in and clock out. Our jobs can go 25 hours a day if we really wanted them to. So it's kind of up to you to set those boundaries that can minimize your burnout, and you know, you can focus on the big picture and, you know, the longevity, whether it's from an artist standpoint or from a professional standpoint, or a working crew standpoint, I guess. And yeah, what else was there? What was the other one?
Just like why relationships are so important to your wellness. I mean, when you're on tour and you're not with your family for, you know, weeks on end.
You got to think, you know, I like and dislike the term tour family, especially if you don't like some of your family members, which is in real life too. But you do become a sense of family, and the camaraderie really has to, you learn how to minimize, or you have to minimize drama. So it forces you to address issues that normally you could, you know, if you had some office drama or school class drama, you can leave that classroom and kind of shelve it until the next day you have to see this person. well, you're going to see that person in 5 minutes in the dressing room. So you really have to step towards the kind of discomfort zone and address issues before they become bigger. And you really only have those people that you're around 24 hours a day, you sleep next to or above or below for months on end. So ideally you would aim to not, let little issues become big issues. And I think it's just like any sort of feeling you get when you see a best friend or somebody you love. That happens over time because you start to, you have good days at work where they're there for you. You have bad days at work where they're also there for you. So you create that bond.
Great, thanks. Conor, how do you approach mental and emotional wellness as part of a holistic fitness plan, especially when dealing with the stresses of touring?
I guess it depends on, again, meeting people where they're at. When I first started training Dillon, it wasn't as much of like a mental health issue as some of the other artists that I've worked with. It was like Dillon kind of knew everything about who he was, and now that we can start training and eating better, obviously that goes along. Like mental fitness or mental health and physical fitness are one and the same. So working with an artist, figuring out where they're at. But I mean, there's been some artists that I've worked with that have been just an absolute mess. And Mike and I were talking about this the other day, where you look at this person and they're playing in front of tens of thousands of people every day, and people are worshiping them and singing the lyrics of their songs, and they're like, oh man, how cool would it be to be that person? And that person is actually very, very lonely, and they don't get along with their crew, and they don't hang out with their people as friends or as family, like Mike was talking about. So even doing meditation, even hiring meditation specialists, yoga specialists to even Zoom and just do the things that are maybe outside what my capabilities are, but bringing other people in and just, again, figuring out where that artist is at and then continuing there. But my relationship with Dillon, since I started working with him, has always been, the communication has always been great, and there's never been like a ton of highs and lows, just trying to like maintain that high and continuing to, just to work on the diet and exercise. I could be wrong. Dillon could have been going through a very tough time the entire time.
I'm good. My dad's also an alternative medicines doctor, so I think that I've had a little bit of a leg up from that in terms of like, nutrition stuff and working out. I worked out. I mean, I don't look like I worked out all my life. I mean, I go through phases, but I got a DUI when I was 18, and to like make my dad happy, I would go to Gold's Gym in LA. He would drive to work and I would run there, work out, and then I would take the bus home, and then I would go to my job to sell suits. And he was like so happy that I was working out, because he's like, that's the best thing you could possibly do for yourself. So
Yeah.
I've always had that in my mind of like, I have to always continually try to keep doing this and making sure I'm taking care of myself.
Cool.
Little side note.
Can you share a specific experience when maintaining a healthy lifestyle had a significant impact on your performance or well-being during a tour?
That's a good question. I don't know if I can pinpoint anything really, actually. I mean, it's always just been really fun. The one thing I did notice from not drinking anymore, I always clocked that if I was DJing and I wasn't drinking for the first couple of shows, it would always be very awkward for myself. Mm-hmm. And as I wasn't drinking, I would start getting better and better at acknowledging my anxiety and understanding what I'm doing and kind of break out of my shell a little bit. And then if I drank, I would kind of get reverted back to day one. And now that I haven't been drinking for 2 years, I feel like I'm consistently really, really good at, like, way better at DJing, I think, than I was. And just feeling way more comfortable with myself.
More present.
More present, yeah, exactly. So I think that's one thing I can pinpoint of really not using alcohol as a crutch to try to have fun with everybody.
That's great. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
All right. Mike, how do you navigate the fine line between promoting a healthy lifestyle and respecting the individual choices and preferences of each team member on the tour?
Judgment. I just judge everybody
Yeah,
silently.
you're good at that.
No, I think maybe to build off what Conor has said about meeting somebody where they're at, I will always inquire if they're seeking any advice or anything to change about their current lifestyle. But I kind of go back to, unless they're hurting themselves or others to a, not severe degree, but to a degree that could build bigger issues or potentially bigger problems, like canceling shows or, let's use that for example, or missing flights or anything like that. I kind of have to respect, especially as we've gotten older, you're traveling with adults and you have to have that kind of, you have to respect and also push a little accountability on their end, because they are in charge of their own career. I'm just helping them hopefully get, what they need to do their job appropriately. But if asked, it's a conversation. It's hearing, maybe through years of therapy. I feel like I make a pretty good therapist and self-acclaimed.
Yeah, you're good.
Like hearing what the root of the issue may be, or maybe asking where's some of this anxiety coming from. Is it anything tangible that I can fix or I can help mediate, or is it something deeper? And always providing a space just to let someone talk. And so it's a fine line, like you said, but it's really trying to respect the individual of where they're at and really how far they want me to encroach into that more personal element versus just show up and make sure they have, blue M&Ms in the dressing room,
Now, with your full crew.
Oh, crew. Oy.
I mean, well, so I mean, an HR person is not going on tour with you, so
No,
you kind of
HR.
start to absorb that role.
Yeah, I mean, we implement nowadays on most of my tours. We have a tour policies document that we require everybody to read and sign, at least sign, and that we have a very strict drug and alcohol policy on that, especially for work and crew, because that becomes a massive safety issue, especially if they're up in the air over the stage or, lifting, 100-pound cases and relying on other people to help them. You really have to set the standards and the protocols of the tour that I think it starts with the communication of the artist and making sure they're always aware of what policies you're implementing, just to make sure if something goes sideways. I always like to say, if a crew person is intoxicated or on drugs and something bad happens, for example, it would be Dillon's name on the news headlines. It wouldn't be, so-and-so lighting company. It would be his name. So you have to protect that brand and protect, in his case, how good of an artist and how good of a person he is. You want to protect that more. So really laying out the rules, almost just like every school job, even if it's a retail job, they have their own policies. So you kind of implement your own and see what works. And then, if it goes to the place you hope it doesn't go to, it's an easy transition to get that person out because they violated the policies.
Conor, can you talk, I think you sort of touched on this before, but obviously recovery and rest is really important for somebody who has to get up at night and perform. And, Dillon talked about how he wants 8 hours minimum. So how do you build that? No, I mean, I do too. That wasn't
No,
like,
it's true. I do.
Like, I love a
You're
solid
right. I don't know why I laughed.
A solid 8 is very important. Everybody should be getting a solid 8.
Just laughing at myself.
Can you just talk a little bit more about the importance of recovery and rest in a fitness routine and how you address the physical toll of, working out and also being a performing artist?
Yeah, I think, for everyone is different. Like he was talking about, like Diplo may be different than, what Dillon needs, but not every night is going to be perfect. However, sleeping on a tour bus, a lot of times it's like, oh man, how is sleeping on a tour? I love sleeping on a tour bus. As soon as the bus engine goes on, I'm out. But just making sure, again, that they are recovered with more than just sleep, with hydration, with how late are they going to be up this night. And it's not like I'm sitting there like with Dillon's alarm clock being like, hey, you need to wake up now. But again, when health and wellness is prioritized on a tour, it's not something where, there'd be often times where we would be up, we had already worked out, we've already eaten a meal, we're going to figure out what we're going to do next. And we find a new city, we go to a escape room. Or, go rock climbing or do something that's active, that's fun.
Yeah.
And the artist on the other bus would be like getting off the bus at 4 p.m., waking up, being like, hey, what are you guys up to? They're like, oh, we're going to do this. So obviously, if I was going to train both artists, it would look very, very different. And it also depends on what the goals are. If someone's goal is to train every day, then you'd have to tailor it towards that. If the goal is, once a week, one of the artists wants to come and get a workout in, it's like that recovery is on them. But I think when you're prioritizing all the things that Dillon prioritizes, which is diet, nutrition, it kind of like sets the role by itself. And again, it comes back to what Mike and I were talking about. And kind of the biggest piece in this is communication with those people, seeing how they feel. Sometimes people start to get sick. I actually think that was one of the things that Dillon had told me after the first time we toured together and he didn't drink on tour. He's like, normally at the end of tour, everyone on the bus is sick. Everyone is like, feels like shit throughout it. But to feel good at the end of the tour, and it's like, well, that happens. Your immune system's obviously going to be a lot better with sleep, with proper diet. So just kind of following those guidelines usually falls into optimizing that recovery. We're also not, competing as professional athletes. So I'm not trying to get Dillon ready for the NFL Combine. So you can kind of back off a little bit on the training. Sorry, Dillon.
Could. That's an option. We could. Yeah.
Are there any specific health foods or, nutritional supplements or anything that you always bring on tour with you?
Testosterone.
Me?
For any of you?
Any
yeah,
of-
I'm just curious.
I'm not a big supplement guy. Do we take any supplements?
No, we just had our protein drink. We had our yogurt. We would do yogurt with peanut butter in it. It's incredible. That would be like before a workout, I think, or was that after?
Sometimes it was because a couple tours we would do intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
And so the last meal would be at a certain time, but there would also be times when there was a large gap before Dillon had to play. So I would try not to give him a bunch of carbohydrates or processed carbohydrates to get like that energy spike and then drop. So one thing that I found effective was we would eat whole fat yogurt and then some other healthy sources of fat, put some peanut butter in there for him. And it'd be funny because it was like I almost felt like a dad at that point in time because they'd be like, Conor, we're really hungry. I'm like, well, how hungry are you? And then I'd like make them their little bowls and bring them in there and they'd be so happy with them.
They were so good. Thinking about it right now.
I still make it at home.
Yeah. That, and then I have little packs that my dad makes me. I have like a morning pill pack, and then I have a after lunch pill pack that I take. But B vitamins, I think stuff like there's this one called Spark that's for brain. Yeah. I don't know. I just take them.
Cool.
I don't look.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah.
Smart.
Yeah.
Just a bag of pills.
Yeah. Exactly.
Can you share any specific instances, this is for any of you, where there's like a real noticeable synergy between fitness, nutrition, and mental well-being, and it's having a noticeable impact on the overall, success of a tour, everybody on tour with you?
I mean, to what Conor was saying, we were touring with Young Gravy on the last one, and it was just so funny because they would come in pretty late, and they can do whatever they want. We're not saying it's not fun to party on a bus until 3 a.m. Mm-hmm. It is. And, but we would be working out at like 12 and they would come walking in and we started rubbing off on them where like Gray was like, hey, I want to come and work out. Actually, his DJ Tip worked out with us for 5 minutes and was like, fuck this, I'm never doing this again. Which was hilarious. He like picked it up a couple times. He was like, yeah, I'm good, later. But it was fun to see that rubbing off. And then there's this other guy, Diablo, that we brought on tour with us before that with Allison. And he hit up Conor recently. And he's like a year and a half sober. And he's like, dude, it was so amazing to watch you guys on tour and just being as strict as you were. And now I'm the same way. Like I'm going into the gym every day. I don't drink anymore. And it's been helping me so much. So it's like, it's really cool to see that with everyone that we're bringing on tour or touring with. We do have like, they're like, oh man, these guys are really on it. They're really actually doing things instead of just like, it's easy to just, the bus is a moving coffin is basically what it is. You're in your little tiny bed that you can barely sleep in, so you're getting like airplane sleep, in my opinion, unless you're Conor, who can sleep anywhere. And it's pretty bad sleep, so it's really, really easy to sleep until 3 p.m., 4 p.m. Then you go and get breakfast, which is dinner. You play the show, you eat pizza afterwards. That's like the normal way we were touring before. So to kind of reverse that and be like, all right, we're going to wake up at 10 when we get to wherever we're getting and work out, eat, have like a full day, be actual people in society. It's really nice. And so I think that that rubs off on a lot of people too, because they're like, wow, yeah.
Cool.
I think as well with like other people that are on the tour is when people see the artists working out and prioritizing health, it unconsciously gives them the ability to do the same thing. And I'm thinking one time in particular, there was a gym we were at, I think it was Kansas City, and I think we had, I mean, most, if not everyone from our bus doing a workout. Like everyone was like, oh, well, let's get this workout in there. They see it happen. They see Dillon feeling better. And again, it gives them that ability rather than if everyone is partying every single night, you don't want to be that one person who's like, oh, no, I'm not going to drink. I'm going to wake up early. And people are like, loser. So it kind of like, it like sets a precedent that allows that stuff to be okay in a typical, like, you know, a party atmosphere in a party world. And when you see someone doing that, and that kind of relates back to Diablo as well, is he was like, why am I on the bus with these squares? And then years later, after probably going down some pretty dark paths, if you followed his Instagram, he's like, I see what you guys were doing now. It's not a matter of, hey, let's live it up to party. It's like, if you want longevity in this game, at some point in time, like, you have to choose health before health will choose you and force you to do it.
He was not choosing health. On his rider, it was vodka and Skittles.
Yum.
And a bag of Lay's. And then one time he hated our food so much that he walked to the bowling alley and got hot dogs.
Oh.
He was like, you wouldn't believe it, guys. They had $1 hot dogs here.
Oh, God.
In St. Louis, I remember that night.
Yeah, there was also one time where we were like, yo, do you want to come and look around? We were, I don't know.
Pittsburgh.
We were in Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you want to come and look around with us? We might go to an escape room. He's like, nah, I'll look at it on YouTube. Funniest dude ever.
That's amazing. So I have one more question before we're going to open it up to a quick Q&A. But I'm curious, and this is a question more for me because I don't love being in a gym. I don't love like lifting weights and all that. I went through the phase but then grew out of it. But when I'm traveling, I like finding like trails and stuff outside. Conor, depending on your clients, do you switch things up I mean, I know you talked about escape room and rock climbing. Do you ever like find empty basketball courts and go explore cities and call that your workout for the day?
Yeah, funny that you say empty basketball courts, because I remember after we were in, I think, Virginia, in Norfolk, and it was like an old YMCA, and they had a basketball court up top. And I think even after the show, we convinced everyone. We must have played knockout for an hour and a half, just playing basketball. But I also have to remember, too, that people aren't, you know, sociopaths like me that want to just like absolutely bury themselves into the ground every day for the sake of being fit. And so you do 3 days in a row of hard workouts, and it's like, all right, for active recovery, we're going to get on the rower for 30 minutes. Like, that's not very fun. However, if we can get out in the city, there were times we ran around in DC just to do some of the sightseeing. There's times you can go rock climbing. There's a bunch of different stuff to do to keep it fun too. Like, it doesn't have to be miserable. Like, I kind of like that misery side of it, but most people don't. So understanding that too, and then seeing what people like the escape rooms aren't really workouts, but if that's something that you're doing where all of a sudden everyone is in a better mood, you're going to be more likely to want to continue that rather than it just being like, well, I don't want to train today because it's not fun. So yeah, depending on the city, depending on what's available.
But I will say that Conor's workouts are so fun, in my opinion. They cater so much to what I like doing at certain times. There are some that really suck, but the fact that he brings CrossFit into like, you know, weight training things that I want to do, every day was a different thing. So it didn't become that like, all right, we're doing chest today. It was like, all right, we're doing chest, but we're doing it this weird way. So it made everything way easier, way faster, and not like, you know, I know exactly what I'm doing today. Every time it was like a new thing. So I really do appreciate that part of it, because touring is very much Groundhog's Day. You're going different place, same show, different place, same show, different place, same show. So to get a little bit of, you know, something else in there, it's really nice.
What's your favorite workout?
What's my favorite workout?
That Conor gives you.
Conor, what was the one we did with Randy? The one where it was
the row bench press?
Yeah.
That we did at the studio over there?
Yeah.
So it was a partner workout. So you and your partner split the amount of repetitions. And it started off with calories on a rower, and then the same number of calories you would do with bench press. So you do, it started with, I think, 50. Here we go, 50 of each, 40 of each, 40, 30, 20, 10. So a descending rep scheme where you'd go, you go, I go. That's another thing, too, that keeps people having fun is doing partner workouts, where someone's lifting, and then when you're resting, someone else is going. But yeah, so row and bench press, a classic like push-pull combo, complementary movement pattern. So it's like as soon as you're absolutely sick of doing one thing of pushing, now you're going to be required to press with your legs and do an upper body pull. So switching those and just staying creative with that. But yeah, that was a fun one. Yeah. I know your least favorite.
Tire flip.
Well, yeah, after that one, that was bad. But the
what is it?
We did one that we retested. Remember, I had you do a workout very early on, and we retested it. No, that one's bad too. But usually, what I'll do to make fitness objective, rather than it just being like, which was cool too. We did before and after pictures of Dillon, and I mean, it was pretty uncanny the difference between that you could see. As Dillon described it, it looked like you like threw him in a dryer because all like the wrinkles and movements were gone. But there was a workout where we did, X amount of repetitions on certain movements. I think it was kettlebell swings, burpee box jump overs, and then a calorie row. And it was a one-time sprint through workout. So we did that at the beginning of a tour, and then that's going to give us objective data if we tested at the end of the tour is did we get fitter in this one area? And if you can continue to do that, if you're a fitness trainer and no matter what you're doing, if you can have that, it's no longer a matter of, well, I think I look better, I lost weight, I think I'm stronger. It is, you are now capable of doing this. It's a higher power output, it's objective data that you're fitter. So those ones usually hurt really bad because you obviously want to go faster because you want to get a better time, whether you're fitter or not. So those are usually the ones where you press. That was the one that I videoed you afterwards, and you took your shoes, shirt, and also pants off in the venue.
I did.
You were walking around.
You had to. I felt constrained. I needed to get free.
I think we can open it up to a Q&A. I know you guys have to get out of here. What time do you guys have to roll?
We got some time.
You got some time? Okay. Yeah. Anyone have any questions? Yeah.
Any important tour bus etiquette that
you can't poop on the bus. Yeah.
Slater.
Yeah, you can't have smelly feet. Oh my God. There's this one guy that.
Did I tell you? Bad. We had to fire him from our tour.
We didn't name him. You didn't hear that name.
We had to. Hey, he was on all my. He ended up
on your buses too.
No, he was on my tour last year. We ended up letting him go, but yeah.
He took his one shoe off and he placed it on the ground. And I kid you not, we were like, "Yo, put your shoes in the bay." Like it's so bad. And we could smell from the spot that he stood on the scent coming from it. So we took a bunch of Clorox and we were just sitting there wiping it.
No.
Yeah, it was
worse. It was worse than, like, think about the smelliest feet you've ever smelled. 10 times worse than that.
And then, Mike, you went and hired this guy again?
No, he ended up working for one of the companies we used. He ended up
nice guy. Really nice guy.
He ended up going home.
But yeah, the feet were bad.
Never got a whiff.
What else? What are some other
bags in the back, backpacks in the back lounge,
or the junk bunk,
the junk bunk?
Yeah, one junk bunk.
Sleep with your feet forward, not your head. You'd be surprised.
Yeah, or else you'll break your neck if it stops too fast. Yeah, I don't know. It's not that much. Just be a nice person.
Have general courtesy.
Yeah. Lock the bus. Every time you leave, you have to lock the bus because if you're not, someone can go on there and steal everything. So you always have to press the 2 bottom buttons. Yeah.
Now it's just one. They switched it.
Oh, it's just one now?
Yeah. It's crazy.
Go for it.
So how often do you guys fly? Like, is it
A
often?
lot. I mean, unless it's like a tour where we're playing like rock, like I guess it would be considered rock venues or venue venues. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. What type of venues are they?
Clubs, like clubs and theaters.
Clubs and theaters.
Not nightclubs.
If you're doing clubs and theaters, I think you're taking a bus everywhere if the tour is kind of condensed in time, and then if not, pretty much fly dates during the weekend, and then you're back home for the week doing whatever you need to do. But yeah, flying sucks. It sucks.
Go for it.
What's the biggest lesson
so far in life. In our, the biggest lesson so far.
Should have gotten an accounting degree. I don't know.
Should have got.
I'm just kidding.
Should have
Follow
learned
your
how to
dreams.
play piano. It's all the things we didn't do, actually. Is the lesson we learned. We should have done them. Connor?
Yeah, you start.
Connor's a wealth of knowledge. I feel like he'll have a good answer.
I don't know. The biggest lesson I've learned so far, like regarding touring and this. Okay, thank you for narrowing that down. It's what we stressed. It's communication. You can't assume that someone knows something. You also can't assume that people do things maliciously. You can't assume that if something happens, that if all of a sudden your like pillow has gone from your rack, just start ripping through or like getting on someone. I mean, it's, as much as it sounds silly, like there's some single pillow people and there's some double pillow people, and if someone takes the double pillows, I mean, it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
But it's a matter of communication. It's a matter of being like, hey, this is what happened, or hey, I purposefully brought this sugar-free peanut butter, and then I saw you eating it, and someone would be like, I don't know the difference of it. So it's a matter of communication, and sometimes taking a step back to see the whole picture, rather than kind of jumping to conclusions or being very quick to react.
That's a good one. That is a good one.
I would say relationships are inevitably what's going to be carrying you throughout your whole career. You can be, I told someone this today, you can be really fucking good at an Excel sheet and know all the formulas and do it perfectly every time, and your accounting skills on the road and your merch accounting, whatever, is perfect. But if you don't have any personable attributes, or you're not focusing on the relationships you're able to kind of forcefully make, then there really isn't any point to do this, because when this is all over, if it ever is, you have, I have thousands of people, we all have thousands of people in our phone book that we have met along the way that we can remember exactly where we met them and the important part that they played in our lives. And that has nothing to do with work or shows or performances. That's honestly everything off stage.
That's good advice. Yeah, go for it.
Well, my question is more about like off touring. For example, this part of your life, how help you to improve, for example, your workflow as a producing songs, and it's really big difference between while you were younger and now that they are still making some music, but
You're an old man.
with Mike and Conor, how it's affect that in your off touring?
I mean, I participate more, I guess. You know what I was saying before. Like if I was, if I had an off week, I would probably go out. When I was younger, I would go out and drink and party with some friends, and it just kind of affected music at that time. There was a certain time where like I could make music hungover and it was great, but I can't do that now. So that's where that's helped with being able to wake up and be creative, and just learning different ways to try to be creative as well, because I've been doing this for so long. So, that's days where you don't even make music. You just look through samples that you like and favorite them, or you're making loops, or, you're just making piano chord progressions, and you come back to it next day, see what you want to work on, and then maybe that gives you that inspiration you were looking for that you couldn't get. So, yeah, I think it just helped a lot with maturing as well, Yeah, I think it's just been really good things that make my dad proud. That's all I want to do.
Aww. So sweet. Max, you had your hand up.
Oh, go ahead. Okay.
As a program director, you're giving time, energy, and attention and care to the whole tour, the whole team. And I wanted to
Thank you for recognizing that.
I always did.
Sorry.
I wanted to ask, like, how do you make time and give time to yourself to that time off?
He doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, kind of back to what I like. It's almost like a skill set that you have to work on throughout it. Our friend Anthony, when asked if I was going to be a good tour manager for Travis Scott, the guy asked, well, what's the T? And he goes, probably he cares too much. And I kind of like, that's been kind of resonating with me because I try to give it my all. And I think that just comes from how I kind of got from A to B and how I got here. So, but he's, you know, it took a lot of years. I'm entering year 17 of touring, and I'm finally realizing I don't have to answer the phone past like 7 o'clock on a non-work day, you know? And then on tour, you know, I'll make this quick, but like I hate working out when I have so much work to do, because that to me is, obviously I'm getting fitter because I just don't eat, but like, you know.
But it's taking away from your work.
That's it. So
I have that same thing.
He would, on our tour together, we agreed that if he would go to the catering room, make me a plate, I couldn't have any choice of that chocolate cake that I love to eat every day. B, I wouldn't have to leave my desk, so I would actually gain about 15 minutes, 25 minutes every meal. And C, that would open me up for 45 minutes to go get a workout in, and I would still get the same amount of work in. And that is when I, for the first time ever in my life, that was what, 2019, I lost a lot of weight, healthy weight on tour. But you got to know that the world will keep spinning if you don't answer an email. You know, unless it's a life or death situation, and if it is, call 911, not me. But you just have to establish healthy boundaries for yourself and then try to communicate that to the team, just so they can try to respect that, because it will only make you better for them.
Yes. 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 You.
First of all, I want to thank you guys for having all of us be here because of you.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah. And, thank you for Corona Fever.
No problem. Thank you.
And I also have a question that's a quick one.
Yeah.
Since we travel a lot and even in different places, are you cautious what to eat to be safe before the show?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, like if you're going to Austin, you don't get barbecue before the show, because it's just going to be it's going down. That's going to be way too much. It's way too much on your body. So, yeah, that definitely is a thing you're trying to think of as you're going and eating wherever. Trying to eat lighter so you're not like, I'm so tired, but I have to go play and put out all this energy. So
No gas station sushi.
yeah, no problem.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, shit. Popular. Yeah, I mean, it's the easiest and hardest question because it happened very organically for me. I was just friends with a bunch of local bands here in Boston. I went to high school on the South Shore of Massachusetts, where we started, doing shows at VFW halls, and it was kind of something we connected on growing up in the punk and hardcore scene. And at that time, I didn't think it was really touring. I just thought it was like, let's go cause ruckus around all of New England and then like come back and go to high school on Monday. And then that turned into like, hey, instead of going to New Hampshire, do you want to go to Ohio on spring break? And then that turned into, hey, do you want to go to Florida on summer break? So it was a very, weirdly natural progression. I just loved being around shows, being around my friends, causing a lot of ruckus, and somehow getting away with it, give or take. Sorry, Detective Foley from the Boston Police Department. Yeah, and then, my biggest thing is, we look at touring as such a big thing and like almost like this person behind the Wizard of Oz's curtain. But touring can simply be going to Providence with a band that you're with and selling a T-shirt for them, going to Connecticut, going to New Hampshire, going to other parts of Massachusetts. It doesn't have to be such a grandiose ordeal, but it all starts with saying yes and just doing it. And then it's up to you to kind of capitalize on that and decide if you want to take it a little more serious. Maybe you start reaching out to your local venues and, sorry to be repetitive from our office hour today, but, if there's a coat check position available at the House of Blues, go and take it. Because maybe the person who does backstage hospitality calls out sick that day and they need somebody to step up. And before you know it, don't tell the Career Center this, but we can work on the wording of what your job responsibilities were on your resume. So maybe you were a hospitality manager, but really you were just, helping fulfill refrigerators, or maybe you're the artist relations coordinator, but really you were just the person pointing them where to go because you were the security guard on the back door. You get creative because that's like the kind of the industry it can be, and you kind of make every opportunity what you want almost. And so my biggest thing is just say yes to anything, and it's gonna suck. And it used to be called Espresso Royale, but I worked at Pavement essentially for 5 years while I toured, because I would go on tour with these shitty punk bands and I would lose money and I would have to pay my own way. Then I would come and be a bike messenger downtown and a barista on Newbury Street. So, I don't know why I fell in love with it. My therapists say I'm running away from my problems, but we've worked on that since, But it was kind of, I saw that this job, you get to travel the country, let alone, we've been around the world a dozen times together, and I never once in my dreams thought, some shitty punk kid from South Shore, Massachusetts was gonna, be able to do that. So I would just start with saying yes to any and all internship opportunity, shitty jobs, mop bathrooms, whatever you need to do. Because getting in the door is almost the hardest part. And then from there, it's just putting one foot in front of the other.
And working at Warped Tour.
Oh my God, Warped Tour.
Warped Tour, I've
That's
noticed
boot camp.
From touring, the best tour managers that I've ever worked with are all from Warped Tour. So, always from Warped Tour. That's my tour manager. He's really mad right now.
You had a question.
I love you, Ollie.
Outside of working out, obviously this is a workout-centered conversation.
You can ask whatever you want.
Anything.
Yeah, do it.
One thing that each of you does every day that you feel makes you better. Yeah, there's nothing wanting to be a couple, but it's something you always do.
Connor, you start.
Yeah.
I gotta think a little bit.
One thing I'm trying to do more, and it's affecting my life a lot better, is that I very rarely speak poorly about people that aren't in the room. And even on top of that, just try not to speak poorly about others. But what I didn't do a very good job of is I like to joke about myself being inadequate, being like, oh, everyone's here for these guys. I'm just some loser who's here. And I would say things like that, and it was like, oh, it was funny. There's probably some truth to it. But what I tried to stop doing is even if it was a joke, is just a lot of that negative self-talk. Once I stopped doing that, there's a lot more light into situations. I think that's something that I've been working on currently that's playing a pretty cool role in my life, because you don't know how someone is going to take it, and you don't know what someone else is going through. And I remember hearing this from someone from the CrossFit side of things who was one of my mentors, and they were one of the fittest people in the world, and they would lecture in front of people. And the guy had a law degree. He had won the CrossFit Games, one of the most incredible individuals, and he would jokingly talk poorly about himself, about not being strong. And he's like, oh, but not if you're a little pipsqueak like me. I'm like, fuck, I would give anything to be like that guy. So you never know how that can affect other people. So just trying to be a little bit more positive, even if it's in a joking way.
I'd probably say something that I've learned pretty recently is self-gratitude. Allowing that space to take a look at where you are, and no matter what place you are, and be grateful that you're there. It's not something I'm good at, but when you take that step back and you really appreciate and you look back at all these things that you can accomplish or you already have, even if it's on a what some people may call a micro level, there's something to be grateful for, and it almost helps you light that fire for yourself to keep going. So self-gratitude, I think, is really key.
I don't have a good one. I feed my dogs every morning, and it makes me feel good because they love me for that. And that's something that's been really cool, because I'd never had dogs because of touring, and now that I have my girlfriend that lives with me, that she brought her 2 dogs,
They're sick.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah.
They're great.
What kind of dogs are they?
One's a Pomsky, of which I'd always wanted a Husky, and it's like an even better version. And then the other one's this massive, he's like 70 pounds. His name's Carl. He's the funniest dog ever. He pees on his hand all the time, and I have to clean it off. That's another one, too. I clean his hands for him. You know, I feel like I'm a good caretaker for these
Hands? Are you
dogs.
saying hands?
Or feet.
Paws.
Paws. He has opposable thumbs. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not the type of person that like thinks about stuff like that. I just kind of like to. If I'm having a fun, I'm having a good day. I don't. Yeah.
Can I disagree with you for a second?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
You, in a lot of interviews back in the day, would always talk about the expertise, about becoming an expert and dedicating 10,000 hours to something.
Yeah, I already did that.
So, you know, that's something to be
That's
proud of.
true.
You know?
That's true. No, I mean, but this last year and this year I've been like relaxing more because I realized I could because we had worked so hard. Mike and I, how many tour dates did we do one year?
It was over 200.
What was the exact number? Wasn't it like
230 or 240?
230.
Like
230 shows where I just thought that I had to, like I was on a hamster wheel. Like we were going. We just kept going. We didn't stop every other place. And it was nice to be like, okay, I can like take a step back. I don't need to be on the grindstone the whole time and just like being burnt out, you know? So I think that was a really good thing for me to be able to like actually appreciate the things that I've cultivated for myself. So I hope that was a good answer. I think the dogs are cooler though.
dog's
That's
hands.
a cool question.
Yeah, in the back over there.
You usually get it no matter what, but it just disappears as you get on stage, unless you mess up. Which then for like 10 minutes you're gonna think everyone noticed it. Most of the time it doesn't. But it's gonna take you out. And a good thing to try to do is acknowledge that and tell yourself, who cares if someone did notice it anyways? It doesn't matter. You're never gonna see these people again. Take your pants down. Doesn't matter. You know? But yeah, I think no matter what, there's always going to be butterflies in your stomach. A thing that I always do is I try to like 5 minutes before the show not talk to anybody, because as you're just like, it just to help with like breathing. I like to listen to Morrissey before I go on. We always play the Smiths before we go on, Hang the DJ. So that also makes me feel way calmer. I don't know why, but it does. So yeah, I think no matter what, every single person that's performing has anxiety. And it just kind of, yeah, it disappears.
Okay.
Yes.
Just a thumbs up.
Oh.
No, that's not fair.
What was one?
I mean, that wasn't really a workout. There was people that were filming on there, and we were going from Coachella to Vegas.
Out. We did.
And I was like, Mike and Dillon, 10 burpees for time. And they were like,
won.
okay.
You were on the incline, and I was on the decline.
It was like while the plane was taking off, so
yeah,
probably not the safest.
Yeah. I mean, I think the coolest other places is just like working out in venues. We went to the Armory, and the venue is gorgeous. It's this massive, like, just
old armory. That's
yeah, it's an old armory.
Yeah.
And we were running around the whole area. Like he was making us do, you know, I don't know, probably 10 burpees, run here, run there, run back. And it was just cool that we had the whole venue to ourselves to run around in and work out and do whatever we wanted. So I think, yeah, I don't know. Are there any other ones? I mean, we went to Dallas one time and we got to work out with like a shitload of cops. Like, I think we went to like the one CrossFit gym where all the cops went, and it was just so wild to see them like coming in and be like, what's up?
But yeah, it was CrossFit The Heat. And I called the owner and I'm like, hey, I'm on tour with Dillon Francis. I'm a CrossFit seminar staff member. Do you mind if we work out in your gym? I noticed they're off hours. And he's like, yeah, cool. I'll have someone come unlock it. And I'm not kidding. Someone came. It was in not a good part of town. They unlocked the doors. They're like, have fun. I was like, no waivers, no anything else. And so we went in there and started training. And then guys started kind of trickling in. And they were like, stockier guys are kind of looking at us doing a lot of bench press. And when we went outside to finish our workout, it was all SWAT cars that were in there. I'm like, oh, that's why they didn't care. But we had like, they had like an obstacle course there that we did. I think we've like ran stairs in venues before. Just utilize whatever the venue is to have fun. Or that little push-up thing we would do before you would go on stage to get a little pump.
Yeah.
Everyone holds a plank position, and I would do one push-up, Mike would do one, Dillon would do one, and then we would go until we all reached 10 push-ups or died.
Yes.
Favorite and least favorite part of being on tour, and also if you have any like funny stories or like moments that stood out to you.
Any what stories? Oh, funny stories. I thought you said money stories. I was like, oh, money stories. I mean, I lost some. Okay, yeah. Best part of touring, I mean, the fact that we get to go everywhere in the world and we're paid to do it, and we get to go and see all these beautiful places. Like, we got to go to Dubai together and hold hands while we snowboarded. And that was a pretty magical moment.
In a mall.
In a mall.
Yeah.
In the desert.
Yep.
It's not supposed to be snow there.
Then we snowboarded in the desert too.
Yeah, and then we did do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome.
It's hot there.
And I think that's the great part of touring. And then the shitty part of touring is how many places you have to fly, how little sleep you get, you know, trying to maximize time where you are. It's tough. It's funny, I have this friend, Brandon, from Chicago, and anytime I'm in some place, he's like, dude, you got to go here, 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 here. And I'm like, shut the fuck up, dude. I'm going to sleep. Like, you're not on tour. You don't know what it's like. We just played till 4 a.m. last night. I know you want me to eat at some like crazy Vietnamese place where you know the owner, but I want to get room service. I want to eat in bed, and I want to fall asleep afterwards, and I want to play the show. But he's like, oh, you're not utilizing your time. I'm like, I already did it. I did it before. I'm good. I've seen Chicago before. So I think, yeah, I wish I had more time in the places that we're at, because we leave the next day because it costs money if we're going to stay there and not play a show. So, yeah. And then funny story? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Funny story.
PG. That's PG.
What?
That's PG.
That's PG. Yeah, I can tell a funny story.
I've got one that's kind of funny.
Okay, let's hear it.
We were in Missouri, and our bus was very different than the co-headliner Young Gravy's bus. And we were there, and Dillon and I were in our beds and separate, and everyone else was in the lounge, and there was like pounding on the side of the bus, and I'm like, someone probably, it's frozen. It was a frozen tundra. Someone probably couldn't open it, and it kept going. And Anthony, who we had mentioned before, he runs in, and he like bumps me, and he's like, Connor, dude, someone's outside pounding on our bus. Like, go get him. And I was like, awesome. So I was in my underwear, and I got out, and I busted open, and I'm like, what are you doing? And the guy like turns, and he kind of looked at me, and I think he realized that it might not have been the best decision. Who knew? And he's like, my girlfriend's on that bus. And I was like, no, she's not. She's on that bus. And I can't confirm or deny if she was on the other co-headliner's bus or not, but
we'll never know.
That was a pretty interesting story. And then we closed the door and then went to bed.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
She was on the bus. Theirs, not ours.
Allegedly.
All right, a couple more questions right here.
Yeah. That's always going to happen. Like, out of the, I don't know, I think I've been doing this like 12 or 13 years now. No matter what, throughout my whole career, I've always like made a song and then not been able to make one and been like, I forgot how to make music. Like, I suck. How did I get to this point? This isn't going to work anymore. And just, you have to realize that that's just going to keep happening, and you're going to keep thinking about that, and you just have to keep chugging away. Like, again, like I was saying, like, make little 30-second loops or something like that you don't know what you're going to do with it, or make a drum loop. If it sucks, toss it, do another one. Just figure out how to do creative things in whatever DAW you work in, or whatever creative endeavor it is. You know, if it's painting, you just trying to paint every day. I'm gonna paint a flower. I'm gonna try to paint it 5 different ways, and you know, just do that. I don't know, but for music, for me, it's literally like sitting there and making, you know, pads or something like that, or just doing it like that, and then you can come back to that, and then hopefully that strikes the, you know, your creative inspiration, or going through splice samples and just making a folder where like, these are all incredible samples that I want to use. I don't know what to do with them right now, but maybe tomorrow it'll work. And then also, like, for me, playing video games is like super relaxing and helps me just kind of tune out everything in my mind. So that's one thing that I go and do. And I guess again, working out is like that is like one of the massive mental clarity things if you're ever feeling stuck, just to get yourself out of the way, or doing yoga, getting some good stretches, getting some good blood flow. So, yeah.
Cool. Let's do one more right here.
I said when you're first going on tour, from being stationary and to then on tour, how do you deal with your responsibilities when you're at home, and how do you compartmentalize your responsibilities while you're on tour?
What responsibilities do I have at home? The dogs? Are we talking about the dogs? I didn't have dogs before that, so I mean, responsibilities at home, I for me, I don't know if I'm the right person to ask this. Yeah. No, I know. Like, I think I had a lucky situation on how my touring career started, where I moved to Atlanta and I learned how to make music there with my friend Corey, and I moved back and I pitched my dad. I said, Dad, I'm gonna stay in the back house for a year. I heard like European students will take a year off to find what they want to do. I found what I want to do. Let me just take a year off and I'll work on music, and if it doesn't happen, I'll go back to SMC, because I dropped out of SMC. And he's like, cool, let's do it. You have to pay $500 in rent, which I'm gonna put in a savings account for you. When you need to move out, this will be your down payment for wherever you move out. So I worked my ass off day and night. I didn't go out. I didn't do anything. My parents yelled at me. They thought I was making like the most insane music possible. Like, my mom would come out and be like, shut the fuck up, I'm trying to sleep. And as a year started coming up, I remember I got Major Lazer to play one of my songs at Coachella. So I went to my dad and I was like, Dad, Major Lazer played my song. He's like, who is that? And I'm like, you know the guy in the BlackBerry commercial, Diplo? That guy. And they were like, okay, cool. That actually seems pretty good. Okay. And so I was like, can I have an extension on that? And so from that extension, somehow pushing forward, made it work, got my EP signed to Matt Decent, and I started touring from there, and I was able to move out of my parents' place. And I just kind of got, like, I would consider my apartment a storage unit, because I was just like, I started touring. So that's why I didn't have any responsibilities at home that I was taking care of. And then through that, just, you know, as we were saying, we were doing like 230 something shows a year, or maybe like somewhere around 200 or 195. But it was just like, I was just on tour consistently, and really that's all I was doing. So I didn't have that much of a home life. Touring is very much like a depressing type of thing for having a home life. It's serious, you know? Because the thing that's crazy is when Mike and I see each other, no time has passed whatsoever, because we both tour. But for other people, like, I haven't seen you in ages, and you're like, it doesn't matter. What are you talking about? It's like been 2 years, and they've I don't know. You understand what I'm trying to say, right? Like, touring is such like a weird vortex of time.
Yeah.
Because it sucks so much time out, but you don't realize it, because I don't know. It's not like you
leave on tour and then come home and like a building's gone, and Randy's built this entire venue, and you're like, I used to just wait for the train to Lowell here, and now there's a venue here,
So.
Yeah. I would just say my like support system at home, friends, girlfriend, more friends, whoever's in the area to put some boxes inside for me. I don't know, and have digital locks so you can let them in from India or wherever you may be, Abu Dhabi. But yeah, I think that's really, you just kind of you make it work. You make it work, and or you have to pay like somebody to be like a house manager. But it's usually just a couple of friends.
I think I can probably relate more to like a tour is almost like a military tour, like a deployment. Like, one of the main things is making sure that everything is set beforehand. If you have loose ends that are going to be at home, that's going to affect you on the road. I've never had to perform as an artist. I've never gotten to do all the cool responsibilities that Mike has to do. So I'm just kind of there, just kind of hanging out, just being a friend unless it's training time. But if you leave loose ends at home, it's going to be tough, and it's going to be hard to compartmentalize, and then you're going to be stressed. And if you're a lighting director, or you're someone in that, you can get distracted from that. So I think it's a lot of the prep work leading up to the tour. And when you do get home, if it's like, oh, I have 9 days off before the next one, it's like, get that stuff done. Work just as hard at home as you are on this tour so that you can compartmentalize them and they don't mix.
Cool. Okay, one more.
I think, well.
Because you're begging. One more.
Sometimes it does. That's why you have to just make sure you're playing different new music, throwing new songs in there, because yeah, it can definitely get stale of like playing your own songs that many times. I mean, there's certain songs that I've like cycled out and then I'll bring them back, or I'll bring the vocals back from some of my old records. I know that makes people angry, but I'm the one that has to hear them 230 times out of the year, and you get to hear it for one night. But then there is a part of like, I do want to make everyone happy that's going to see me. So there's a push and pull on that one, you know? But yeah, I think just really like throwing stuff in there, and then just being really grateful to be playing shows all around the world. I think that's something that you always have to remind yourself in the back of your head, that like we're able to do what we love and still continue to get to do it. Like I think this and last year was like a very big like, whoa man, it's been 13 years of this. But like that's crazy, because usually a music career lasts 5 to 7 or something like that, if that. I think, I don't know the statistics, not a statistics guy. but yeah, so very thankful to be here, very thankful for everybody showing up and asking questions.
Let's give them a big round of applause, and a big thank you to Stephanie and Connor for putting this together too.
Thank you, Morgan. Thank you, Morgan.
Thanks, Morgan.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, that's my cue. At this time, you can go visit my girl Maraid if you guys would like to taste test a little bit of Viva, and then I ask that you continue this party over at Play. Thank you.